All right, half of Americans are taking side gigs in order to purchase a home, and here's what you need to know. What's up, real estate rock stars? I'm Money Mike, and welcome to Rockstar News, your news source for investing, real estate agents, and anyone looking to become a real estate rock star. And if this is your first time watching, make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, and share this with all your friends, anybody who's looking to become an entrepreneur, a real estate agent, or just a general real estate rock star. And if you stick around to the end of the video, we'll show how you can potentially win up to $600 every single month, which is freaking amazing. And welcoming back Chris Noon, the amateur, I don't know. You're wearing right now the Deadpool, amateur Deadpool impersonator, and taco enthusiast.
Yo, Taco Tuesday.
Yeah. Taco enthusiast. Wait, that's not Tuesday. It's
Taco
Wednesday.
Tuesday. Well, you can release this on a Tuesday if you want.
It's whatever. So welcome back, Chris. How you doing?
I appreciate it, man. I'm doing really good. I really like the idea of what are people willing to do to be a homeowner. Kind of reminds me of a Klondike bar commercial. What would you do to be a homeowner?
All right, so according to a recent survey, Americans are willing to do what it takes in order to make homeownership goals a reality, such as taking side jobs, cutting expenses, and considering a less expensive location. The survey discovered nearly half of Americans who are saving to buy a home or to renovate a home have done work outside of their primary job to supplement their income in order to pay for it, such as selling items online, starting a small side business, or driving for a ride-sharing company. Nearly 8 out of 10 non-homeowners say that they're willing to accept their second choice of city or town in order to afford their own home. Nearly 3/4 of non-homeowners say that they'd be willing to buy a smaller home with fewer amenities, while 7 out of 10 Americans say that they will give up something to save for a down payment, including dining out, giving up events, and giving up vacations as well. Now, millennials who don't own a home are even more willing to make trade-offs, such as considering a second choice city. Millennials are also, as a whole, say that they're willing to take steps such as side jobs and cutting expenses in order to save.
Now, I gotta say, I agree with a lot of the stuff that they're advocating for, especially with like side gigs, ride sharing, small businesses. It's super simple to sell stuff online nowadays. To be your own like kind of boss in a way, to come up with that additional income as well as cut expenses. Be surprised how many people have subscriptions they didn't even know they had stuff or subscribe to.
Yeah, like you hear the subscription things all the time, like on Pandora. They're like just for $5 a month, and $5 a month, and all those little $5 things start to add up. And honestly, I could deal with the commercials because $5 times 12 is what, $60 a year. I could put that $60 towards investments and other assets.
Do you get any magazines in the mail?
No.
So I wonder how many people like are watching this and like I get like 3 different types of magazines. Like how much are you paying for those magazines to cover it? And you cut those out, especially if you're not reading them.
Yeah. Even in the wake of the Great Depression and current affordability concerns, Americans see homeownership as a clear metaphor for adulting, and achieving the American dream. For 70% of Americans, owning a home is seen as a sign as someone being a successful adult, on par with having a career. In fact, homeownership is more widely equated with being a successful adult, more than twice as much as having children or getting married.
Hashtag adulting. Hashtag adulting.
But the number one hurdle to buying a home is saving for a down payment. More than 1 in 4 say it's the biggest barrier, and it's even becoming more pronounced for millennials.
I find that kind of hard to believe.
What do you mean?
I mean, it's coming up with a down payment. It's just managing your money.
Well, I think that
it's financial literacy.
Well, no, I think the issue is just that they don't understand how much they actually truly need. You know, a lot of people think that they need a 20% down payment, and you really don't anymore.
No, you really don't. I had actually a meeting last night with a new buyer, and they still had this mindset of that. They thought they had to put 20% down. I was just like, no. There were programs with as little as 3% down. They're like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah. Americans also have a misconception about what it takes to increase their opportunity to get financing for a home. A lot of them are citing perfect credit scores, being debt-free, having a lot of money in the bank, and having no student debt loans whatsoever. In fact, 31% of homeowners said that they never thought they would be able to purchase a home, and that number is even higher when it comes to millennial homeowners. And that's where we go into like the whole thing where they have this idea that they need 20% down in order to purchase a house, and you really don't. And there's ways to get around that, and if you want to get into a home, you can get into a home. It's a matter of playing with that number, understanding what your options are, and yeah, you can totally. And then like as a real estate real estate agent or realtor, your job is to inform your your business people,
well, and just your friends, and just generally just kind of get educated. Like the first step, if you towards home ownership, is to get educated. Like you need to seek out a realtor professional. There are so many licensed agents in this freaking state right now that you could find somebody. You just have to ask like a relative or a friend. Someone knows a realtor, or you just go ahead and contact Chris, and your Deadpool realtor, or Mighty Mike, the Rockstar News. the Rockstar realtor, and we're gonna be happy to tell you and debunk those myths, those misconceptions. Like you need to have perfect credit. Baloney. You can have a 550 credit score and still purchase a home. You can have a bunch of debt and still get into a home.
Yeah, and I don't find it surprising at all that people still consider home ownership to be the American dream. A lot of people, especially millennials, have been taught for a long time that home ownership is the American dream, and that's the way to go. Now, are the pros and cons to that? Yeah, of course. Of any investment, anything that you're doing with any money, there's going to be some pros and cons to that. But I think the whole idea, I think we talked about it earlier before, you're saying that, you see millennials as people who just kind of want to go off into the world and
nomads. They want to
They want
that van bus.
They want that van life. Yeah,
they want that van life and just go to place to place and just live out of their van. It's just like, in my mind, I'm just like, why would you ever put yourself through that?
Well, because I think the vast majority of millennials are still pretty traditional. And I don't mean traditional like in a conservative way, but they still follow the same traditions as their parents did. And, so they're still looking to have, careers. They're still looking to develop themselves. They're still looking to settle down and to start families. And I think we're going to see that trend continue on even to Gen Z and further on down the line. So, it doesn't blow my mind away that they want to do that. It's only like a small subset of
it's a small percentage.
Hipsters who are like, I'm going to go get me a prison van and deck it out, which, I mean, I think that's cool.
Don't get me wrong, I think it's cool too, but I wouldn't want to make that as like a life choice. Maybe just a life experience more than anything.
Yeah, exactly. I like to, for one summer, probably go across the country in my own design school bus, but that's about it. I'm not gonna live that style. Now, I would say this:
hopefully, you're a good mechanic on that school bus when it breaks down.
Now, I will say this: in certain areas, like not down in California, but over in California, especially Silicon Valley, you do have a lot of people who are making six figures, and that's still considered not enough. So they are going to where they live in cars and live in vans, and they're decking it out because rent is like $2,300, $2,500 for a one-bedroom apartment.
Yeah, so, 600 square foot.
And then home prices over there are just astronomical. They're blowing out the ceiling. So I can see why people are going to sit there and be like, I want to live out of a van, but I want to work in the city and stuff like this, because you want to be able to save that money. And me as an investor, me as a entrepreneur, I'm always going to tell people look, if your goal in life is to be financially independent, then one of your largest expenses is always going to be a living expense. Typically it's going to be about 30% of what you pay every single month. If you can cut that out.
It should be.
Well, it's going to be around there. It's just on average numbers. But if you want to save as much money as you possibly can, and I always tell people, look, try to cut your expenses down to 50%. And then you can live off the rest, save the rest, or invest the rest. We have this idea as millennials that we're somehow just poor and we've been deprived because the baby boomers generation had this great economy, which let's just be real, that economy existed because of World War II. Yeah. Half of the world got destroyed during that war, and the United States was the only one that didn't get bombed to oblivion. So we're the only ones who had factories, and so we the only ones who started to produce stuff. And so when, after World War II, the American economy started to explode, is because we were the only ones who could produce anything.
Yeah, and in the world, especially the Western Europe, they all needed those goods. So therefore, jobs and the Great Depression had just ended too. It's so coming out of it. So yeah, that was kind of a good time. And even tonight, right now, I think I looked it up the other day, the amount of millionaires on it per day.
It's 1,500.
It's 1,500.
Yeah,
it is so easy to become a millionaire, and I also think it's mentality, about being financially independent.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to get to. Millennials look at the baby boomer generations. They're like, oh, you destroy the economy. Now, it sucks for me. I can't get anything. And I'm like, it's out there. You can get that. You just got to be disciplined. You just got to sit there and look at what's going to drive me like true happiness? Is it going to be spending money? Is it going to be going to bars? It's going to be, buying all this frivolous stuff, or
materialistic,
is it going to be spending money on financial independence? Are you paying yourself first? When you get your check in the, deposit into your bank accounts, are you sitting there going, I'm paying myself first? Or are you going, paying all the bills, paying all the stuff, buying all the things I need, and then what's left over, then you're doing that. Like that 10% rule, like they taught you in high school, make sure you save 10% of your income. That is bare minimum.
See, they had go ahead. By the time I was going through school, they had already cut the financial class. So,
well, we had a guy from.
They can teach that at home. Good luck. I didn't.
We had a guy from like a local bank come in and teach us that, and then I sat at a couple other classes as well where they talk about that minimum 10%, and they bumped up to like 20%. Like they have the 5, 20, 30% rule, which is like 50% of your expenses go to living. 30% go to lifestyle and 20% go to saving. Like guys, I'll go ahead and link a financial calculator in the description below. Just play with the numbers. If you save 10% of your income, you're not going to retire until you're like 90. And the thing is that the lifestyle you want? I mean, if that's the lifestyle you want, then go for it all day. But me, I'm all about financial independence, retiring early, about that fire life. I'm about sitting there and not worrying about where my next paycheck's going to come from. If I get into an accident and I'm disabled, I don't want to sit there and be like, oh, I can't work anymore, and then I'm going into this debt. So this whole idea that somehow millennials are being deprived because the economy isn't as good as it used to be.
But I also think it's the entitlement as well. Like they want to be kind of given everything.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I think that's a small number of millennials, and like I said, we're getting off topic. But I think the vast majority of millennials, when they have access to the internet, they're one of the first generations that grew up with the internet, and they get to see the world in a very wide lens, and so they want more. And I don't think that's anything wrong with that, because the reason why I got into becoming an entrepreneur, the reason why I got into investing is because I wanted more. I didn't want to sit there and have to beg and plead for pay raises or ask for permission to go to my niece's recitals or to do any of that. So is this entrepreneur lifestyle for everybody? No, because it's not all, you're not sitting there like, there's gonna be a long period of time where you're just continuously working. But I know I'm building to my future, and the only one person who could see my potential, to utilize my potential, is me. So I think millennials are starting to see that, and they're wanting more out of the jobs that they have. Not every person is gonna be cut out for the entrepreneurship lifestyle, but when they're working for Google or Apple and stuff like this, they're demanding more because they see themselves as more valuable. And think about our grandparents sat there and shoveled manure.
And they were happy to have jobs.
And they're happy to do that. But they sit there and criticize us for wanting more. I'm just like, I'm sorry, you went through such a horrible experience and that's what you had to do. And you're very stoic about it. Good for you, but we want more.
The opportunities at that time was very limited, and therefore, you had great appreciation. But now we live in a time, like you said, the internet is this huge, still very untapped space to where people can do.
Oh, they're tapping it. They're tapping into the internet. Give me that. So
they're really utilizing all of it, especially So there's so many opportunities to build wealth.
Yeah, it's just that be able to have side gigs, even if you do own a home, having a side gig where you're bringing in extra money can help you towards your financial independence. And we'll do a whole another video on financial independence and how to achieve it. I think that's super important, especially if you're a real estate agent.
Or an entrepreneur in general.
Or entrepreneur in general. I think one of the biggest problems I see coming through our brokerage is agents assuming that their commission checks are their paychecks.
Yeah. And that was me for the first year. I'm not gonna lie.
That's how a lot of people get into the business. They're like, oh my God, that person made $5,000. If you're with a brokerage that takes a cut, typically it's gonna be like 30%. Mm-hmm. Then the government's gonna come in and take another 30%. So that's 60% gone right there. Yep. Then that 30% that you have left over, that's to you.
Goes to marketing.
Then you have to divide that up to further. You have to divide up to living expenses and business expenses and fees and all stuff. Yeah. So at the end of the day, you're probably bringing home out of a average commission check, which is $6,000. You're probably bringing home $3,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say about 25 to 30%.
Yeah, of it. And so, but they sit there and get that $5,000 and they're like, I'm rich. It's like no. So we'll have another video and we'll talk about that. But hey, what are you guys' thoughts on home ownership? Is taking a side gig, making sacrifices your lifestyle, or sacrifices in your lifestyle, or is this overblown? Go ahead and leave your comments and your questions down below. Also, go ahead and head over to our Facebook page where you can click on the little tab somewhere around here that says enter to win. Every month we're going to be giving away gift cards up to $600. You can sign up for 5 times per month to increase your chances of winning. And if you're interested in becoming a Central Florida homeowner in the future and you want to get a leg up, become super smart in the whole process, check out our monthly newsletter and become a real estate rock star.